Man, it's been forever since I've had to do any syncing of audio. This should turn out really well. Just so no one thinks in this video I am riding around squidding, during this video I have a green shirt pulled over my Icon armored shirt. This gives me a level of protection that I'm not entirely sure of, but it is 92 degrees, which is why I'm hiding here in the shade. And if you're interested in the Icon shirt or what I wear to stay cool, take a look at the video about hot weather gear. I'll link it below. First of all, welcome to the channel and thank you for stopping by. When time permits, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. This bike is the 790 Adventure R, and it ships with an incredibly small windscreen. One that is so effective that when you check message boards, folks are saying, I just took it off. And I did try another screen, which is the KTM high screen, and I was fairly satisfied with it. It was a decent screen, but I felt there could be more. And I decided I'm going to take my Givi Airflow from my 390 Adventure, which is my favorite screen ever, and I would put it on my 790 Adventure R and see how good it worked here. Watch the footage now, and we'll get back to this. We are at the lowest setting for the Givi Airflow, and let me show you what kind of coverage we're getting right now. Now, the wind is hitting me right here. If I had the peak on this helmet, it would be hitting it, and it would be buffeting my head like crazy. I know because I've tried. This is all clear. Now, the change I'm experiencing, or the difference between the 390 Adventure and the 790 Adventure, is that this does not offer the shoulder protection. So coverage is right here. That is, wow, not wide at all. This area, I start getting hit with wind right outside of it. Now, it's not a big deal. It's not hitting me in the chest at all. Everything is okay. But you're definitely going to notice it. I think during the winter, that's going to be a bit chilly. Again, air is up here, air is here, air is here, basically inside of my shoulders. Let's raise it up to the middle and take a look. Okay, we are 50% up on our sliders, and let's see what kind of change we have. I can immediately notice that there's less wind striking my shoulders. I'm not going to say it's not striking in the same spot, but there's definitely less pressure. So virtually no change whatsoever with the height. If anything, I think it might actually be lower. And here on the sides, it's slightly out farther. Very, very slightly more coverage. However, I hope you can see it right now. Take a look at the bounce all over here. As soon as I hit halfway up, this bounces around like crazy. Far worse than my 390 Adventure does. All right, you probably can't hear me, but let's take a look. It is noticeably bouncing, and I am on a perfectly maintained road. This is level. It's not quite flat, but it's relatively close. But there's not an imperfection in this road. But I hope you can see how much that is bouncing around. Now we're going to go ahead and show it to you on the highest. I think from looking at this one, you can see what's going to happen now. And now the screen is essentially a touring screen. This thing is right up almost eye level, and you would expect to get extremely good coverage here, but that's not really the case. Let's straighten out a little. We are still in the exact same spot essentially. There is no way you would want to have a peak on while using this screen. And as far as it goes on the side, no change whatsoever. There's absolutely no difference. However, I hope you can see this again.
higher up we go with the screen, the more it's just shaking all over the place. And I hope the image stabilization on the camera does not take that out. But trust me, that is bouncing all over the place and it drives me absolutely nuts. So let's get that back down to a manageable height, and we'll have a conversation about this screen, my favorite screen, on this bike. All right, the screen is now almost as far down as it goes. I leave it about an inch up on each side, and gives me here, gives me there, gives me there. Essentially, there does not appear to be a difference between the lowest setting and the highest setting of this screen for protection. And that's bizarre until you consider I am on a 790 Adventure. And this bike is notorious, as is the 890, at least through the 22 model, of having awful, just awful buffeting. The only explanation is the air is not coming at you from the front. Now, folks say take the winglets off. I have not on this bike, but I did break a winglet and don't have them on my 390. It didn't really make much of a difference there, but I am going to give it a chance here. But if you can see my hand right here, I can feel this air coming up at me. This bike just shoves air up at you as opposed to away from you. From what I'm reading and hearing, that's been fixed with the fairing on the 2023 890 Adventure. But if you've got a 19 through a 22, I do not believe you can escape the air. It doesn't matter how much coverage you have up here. The Givi is a phenomenal windscreen. I've tried it on 3 different bikes and it's great, absolutely great. But on this bike, it doesn't matter. This is effectively no better than the tall windshield that comes from the KTM Power Parts, and I imagine any other windshield. And the dilemma there is, why would I pay nearly $200 for a Givi Airflow on this bike when it's going to give me effectively the same coverage as a $99 screen?
So now you know, it doesn't really work. I mean, it works to a point, but the Givi Airflow is hampered by this motorcycle. The problem we're having here, the buffeting everyone talks about, the air hitting you that everyone on the message boards, Facebook, all of it is not the fault of the screen. I know how well this screen can work on multiple bikes. It's this bike. This bike just has terrible aerodynamics that push the air at you in ways that the screen just doesn't come into play. For the first time ever, I can't recommend buying a Givi Airflow. It's wasted on this bike. The money, don't spend it. Obviously, you're going to need to get rid of the garroting machine that it ships with, but I think there's a plethora of $99 screens that will work just as well as this. It's really unfortunate, but I hope I saved somebody spending $200 on this screen. Oh, disappointing. Don't buy a Givi Airflow if you have a 790 or 890 Adventure before 2023. Well, if you stuck around, I really do appreciate it, and take care.